I love it. I was thinking the other day that I know I've given this talk in the past, and if I remember correctly, one of the times I gave the talk was in 1996 when I was actually still working for AT&T in the AT&T WorldNet Internet Service Marketing Organization. And back then, of course, the talk was called Trends in Personal Computing. But now, since computing is everywhere, we got to talk about personal technology. So let's get started here. Whoops. Let me go. Oops. So let's talk about initial topics, right? We all know that artificial intelligence is everywhere, right? So I looked at who the players are, and the other thing I did is to four of those players, I made the query of tell me what the trends are in personal technology. And I'll show you what they said, all right? So let's see who the players are, first of all. It all started back in November of 2022 with our good friends at OpenAI when they put forth this thing called ChatGPT. And from there, since then, with ChatGPT, it has grown in capability. And if I remember correctly, the latest capability I saw is that it actually does some sort of reasoning. You ask it a question, and it actually takes some time to come back and give you a, quote, reasonable answer. It is I believe it's called the O3 version of ChatGPT, okay? Another player is Anthropic, and their engine is called Claude. I was alerted to this one by my grandson, who used it to develop some of the code for the back-end systems for a business that he is building. So that's where I found out about that one. By the way, the reason that these are emboldened is these are the ones that I asked the questions to. Google has Gemini, and Microsoft has Copilot. So these are the four engines that I asked for. So what's going on with trends in personal technology? Along with them, of course, is Apple with Siri, and more recently with the update, you can back end Siri with ChatGPT. Meta has Meta AI. Amazon seems to be concentrating more on providing the servers to do all this AI arithmetic, if you will, and sorting. And of course, our friends over at X have also mentioned they want to do AI stuff, but they're not clear about exactly what they're going to be doing. So those are the major players that I know of today. And the scary part of this whole thing is that, I read articles all the time, and every now and then I run across a new player talking about something they're going to do with AI. So this is a continuing saga for sure. Now, suggested trends. So what did these four engines tell me? Well, of course, they said that AI is a trend that's going with integration and machine learning and generative AI and scientific discovery and personal assistance and things like this. And you see in parentheses which engines suggested which topics, okay? Another topic was health. And of course, you got wearable health technology. And they talked a little bit about health tech evolution. Another one was augmented reality and virtual reality. And you see that Claude and GPT talked about some things there, as well as Gemini and Copilot. And privacy, another big topic they talked about. And also connectivity, because things are getting faster and faster, and we're becoming more and more connected with things. The Internet of Things, sustainability, robotics, retro technology revival. Seems some people want to bring back technology that was useful maybe 3 or 4 decades ago. I mean, one thing that comes to mind there, of course, is vinyl records. Right? So I just wanted to ask the audience, have any of you experienced interactions with AI?
Well, aside from just using Gemini and ChatGPT and a few other things, I'm sure that's the only direct contact I've had. I'm sure a lot of my stuff flows through AI, and I've noticed that Google Docs has gotten quite a bit better over the years at corrections of your English,
Okay.
and I'm presuming there's some AI in there somewhere.
Could be. Okay. Anybody else?
I've depended on AI via Copilot and OpenAI for translating my medical records.
Okay.
The jargon looks like it's, confusing, but when I run it through Copilot, it's not necessarily all reassuring, but at least I understand it better. And of course, I use it with Excel.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. One of the statements I'll make later on is the fact that Microsoft has included Copilot with all of their Office programs. In
And
fact,
here
I
in the
also
graphic
saw,
group,
speaking of
Bill,
that, they're also going to raise the price.
Bill,
Yeah.
this is Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Here in the graphics group, we've had quite a lot of sessions over the last half a year or so about AI and computer graphics and the really extraordinary things you could do very simply. A lot of them have been incorporated in programs like Adobe Photoshop. Just on your telephone, there's a tremendous amount that you can do in AI with photographs and videos that you've taken. So
Yes.
there's a lot of fun to be had there. And all you have to do in a lot of these programs is just type in a few prompts and you'll get the most amazing graphics being generated, or speak into the computer and it knows what you want if you give the right prompts, and then you can always modify them and make things even more to your liking.
Yep, yep. In fact, there's a branch of engineering I've seen. It's called prompt engineering. I guess that relates to making sure you're able to ask it the right questions in the right way to get more of what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bit of an experience with it a while back when I asked about a film and the film history.
Okay.
And I got an answer back with the very plausible cast list about this film, and it was all totally fictitious. I think the term people have come up with is it's AI hallucinating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
I've been using Copilot on my phone, especially when I want to do a comparison between two things,
Okay.
or get the pros and cons of some product. Doing
Mhm.
something like recently, I asked for the pros and cons of bridging my fiber gateway router instead of like asking about whether that would give me better performance or what were the problems, stuff like that. And I ended up getting a lot of good references, but asking for comparisons between two things, it'll give you a nice list, which is much, much faster than going through and doing a Google or whatever search and then putting it together yourself. It's basically summarizing things for you, really summarizing whatever you would have gotten from the search.
Excellent. Excellent. So is this a Copilot app on an iPhone, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a Copilot app.
All right.
Bill?
Yeah.
Bill, this is Ralph. A couple of months ago, I gave a demonstration of Filmora, and they're basically all in on what you call AI. One of the things that fascinated a lot of people there was how you clone a voice, and I gave a demonstration of that. And that's the downside of it, because if you're the wrong mentality, you could use that very easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Of course. So someone. Hey, Drew.
Sorry, I apologize.
No problem, man. You're okay. I recognized your voice. It's no big deal. Okay.
I've been using
I would-
Excel with Copilot to
Yeah,
help me write macros because I don't really know. I know a little bit about VBA, but I'm not an expert by a long shot.
okay.
And it's helped me write things. And then I go, what? It didn't do what I wanted. And it goes, oh, well then, oh, you wanted that. So it's given me a code that has really helped me out recently.
Excellent. Okay. So see, it is creeping into our lives in all kinds of interesting ways, for sure.
Oh, I certainly use it for if I'm learning, trying to figure out something, how to code something,
Mhm.
especially a language I'm trying to learn or something I'm trying to learn. I ask for a fragment or whatever it is,
Okay.
because you can ask for a fragment or a class or your complete program.
Oh,
So
which program are you using?
I've used I started with ChatGPT mostly.
Okay. All right. Okay.
so who here still goes to a web page with a search engine like Google and searches that way versus using a Copilot or Genesis or something like that?
Depends on what I want.
Yeah.
I find that the ratio of times that I use the old-fashioned desktop search engine and browse through the list of URLs is down to about 10% of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're more likely to use an AI engine.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I've a whole bunch of searches I've done that way because, well, it just consolidates everything together.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yep. Yep.
you got to still watch it though.
Oh, no, I know. I mean, one example I know of is my granddaughter who's in college. Instead of reading one of the Greek Iliad or whatever, she'll ask ChatGPT for the highlights. And from that, she'll then know what to pay attention to as she reads through it. So yeah,
Hey, that beats Cliff Notes.
yeah, right. It's the modern day Cliff Notes, if you will.
I gather that search engines are incorporating AI anyway. So
Oh, yes.
even if you expecting to be using the search engine, it's still going to be a component of AI is likely to be there.
That's correct. Yes. Yep. So, anybody else? Okay. So anyway, that was what the suggested topics were. Let me tell you what the actual is going to be. We'll talk about AI. We'll talk about health electronics, augmented and virtual reality, privacy. We always talk about bandwidth. That's one of our favorite topics. And a little bit about electric vehicles on the back end. Okay. So AI. And we just got finished talking about this. It's everywhere. Smartphones, devices. It's being incorporated into commercial applications. We mentioned Office, and a couple of things I work with and I actually still work part-time, folks. Even though I'm 38 times 2 or whatever. Don't you love it? And even there, I see, whatever the application name is with Copilot and a little button for that. So yeah, it's everywhere. And as Bill Silverman mentioned, you got tools that create stuff and generate text and code and images and music and all kinds of stuff. And that really falls under the title of generative AI, right? And as we said before, it's chatbots, content creation, art generation, right? And in a sense, it's like having a digital artist right by your side to come up with new ideas. So it's great for this. However, of course, wherever a new thing comes along, people think about trying to regulate it, right? So you've got the governments all over the world saying, my goodness, how can we do this and keep our people safe so that the downsides don't come in and ruin everything for us, all right? Now, other things we're seeing in AI, and John mentioned this before, we see new computers coming out that are labeled AI PCs. And one of the first driving factors for this, of course, was the use of Qualcomm's Snapdragon CPUs in machines with their neural processing units that are specifically designed to do AI tasks and machine learning tasks. Intel, of course, is in the game as well with their processors. And as I mentioned before, Microsoft is including Copilot in its OS and Office products. How about health electronics? What's going on there? Well, we're seeing trends where our devices are increasingly focusing on monitoring our health so that we can be better informed about what's going on with our bodies. For example, Apple's latest iPods, they now function as medical grade hearing aids, right? And the upcoming Apple Watch, what they want to do there is to diagnose conditions like sleep apnea. Of course, that I believe is still pending government approval, but and then you've got health monitoring and wellness applications being used. Oh, a couple things from the Computer Electronics Show, because I always like to give this talk after that show ends to see if I pick up on anything interesting. What you see in this picture looks like a headset, okay? However, what's really going on here is that it's a device that streams water into your ears to wash them. It has cameras to watch, so you can watch the cleaning process in real time, right? Who would have thought, right? Okay. Let's see. Another thing is this thing here. It looks like a spoon, right? Ah, but wait, there's more. This is an electric salt spoon. It sends an electric current to your tongue to make it think that you're actually tasting something that's saltier than it really is.
Oh, man.
Wow, right? Let's see. Oh, might look like a regular pair of glasses, right? Not really. These are smart glasses from Excelsior Luxottica, which I believe is a manufacturer of glasses, which I mean, the pair I'm wearing may even be made by Excelsior. And these are called Nuance Audio. They've got hearing aids included with the vision part of the glass. So you can do both things at the same time. Okay. Augmented and virtual reality. What's going on there? So we got some trends. We know people, we know companies are investing in AR-enabled smart glasses because they want to introduce all kinds of digital information seamlessly into our lives, right? Of course, there the big challenge is whenever technology hits humanity, you have to do it in a way that's not jarringly disruptive. Whoops, wait a minute, back up. And of course, in educational, you're seeing it as well, because you can create things that are interactive and also engaging, so that students who are learning these things, you make it more accessible and more enjoyable to them. Because at some point, if they forget that they're actually learning something, they may actually learn something more and better. So what do we see at CES relative to this? Well, once again, looks like a pair of glasses, right? However, they are actually smart glasses with an invisible display that's actually integrated into the frame. So you got the world's smallest optical module, and it has a field of vision that's similar to a 3.5-inch screen. And actually here, in this case, you have to look up to see the display. So it really doesn't interfere with your forward-looking vision at all. And also another set of glasses. And from here, this is what Meta's prototype looks like. Smart glasses that once again it integrates this digital information into your life. So you're looking ahead, but since it's augmented reality, you're seeing what's actually in front of you along with the superimposed digital information. Privacy. What are we saying about that? Trends. We said enhanced data protection features are becoming more and more standard. We've got a growing adoption of encrypted communications. Things like some of you might know that next month I'm going on a trip to Thailand, and we had a Zoom meeting the other day where the person said, I want you all to make sure you've got the WhatsApp program on your phone, because that's the way we're going to be communicating with you. And by the way, all the communications on WhatsApp are encrypted. And of course, governments are enacting stricter data privacy regulations, especially a lot of this stuff started over in Europe, but it's starting to spill over into other areas of the world as well. And I'm sorry, someone say something? Okay, I guess not. And at the same time, individuals are becoming more aware of what their rights are, and they're taking steps to protect their privacy. Okay, now we get to bandwidth and bandwidth. What's going on here? Well, let's take a look at this changing, quote, wired landscape, if you will. You know, all the time we're hearing about higher and higher speeds and fiber to the home, right? And you might ask, well, why do I need all this bandwidth and speed to my home? And I believe the answer really is we're seeing more and more devices in houses being used at the same time to stream videos, to send videos, what have you. And, you know, as the commercial goes, where I think it's a Xfinity commercial, where the person says, I'm giving a party for my daughter and she's going to have 100 friends come over. Can my router handle it? And of course they say, well, of course, because the bottom line is you're going to have a bunch of people in a house who are using their devices at the same time that's going to need more and more bandwidth, right? And we've said before that customers get fiber connected to their cable modem, and John Stanfield was the person who inspired this particular bold item. Now, here's a good one. Infinity talked about, oh, we're going to do 10 gigabits in our platform. But somebody in the government got on them and said, I don't think that's right. So they dropped that naming convention, all right? Our friends at Google Fiber, they talk about 20 gigabit connections. And more recently, they now say we're going to do that plus put Wi-Fi 7 routers in your house. So you'll have all that high bandwidth connectivity all throughout the house, right? And of course, our friends at T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon are doing 5G wireless home internet access. You see those commercials all the time here in the States. Now, what about the changing wireless landscape? Well, the satellite providers are getting into the act. We've got Starlink that is used for residential roaming. I've seen Starlink being used on airlines and also on cruise ships, right? Has anybody seen Starlink in their travels? Nobody? Anybody still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, good.
Is
Now,
Starlink, is that Musk's baby?
yeah, it is. Yeah,
Okay.
owned by SpaceX. Yep. Now, late breaking news, as of yesterday, Amazon announced they're going to have a satellite home internet service as well. And they got 3 different versions, right? Standard to give you 400 megabits, Pro, which is a little bigger antenna, to give you 1 gig, and a little portable thing with 7-inch square antenna for 100 megabits for your use on the go, so to speak, right? So not only are we going to have Starlink satellites up there, we're going to have Amazon's up there as well. So stay tuned, folks. It gets more and more interesting every day. Now, what about Wi-Fi 7? Well, we know that it was, we talked about this last year, the fact they were drafting the standard, and they expected to have a final in 2024, but that hasn't slowed people down, let me tell you. We know that the throughput with Wi-Fi 7 is way up there, 46 gigabits, where 6 has 9, almost 10, 5 has about 3.5. And you're seeing devices that are Wi-Fi 7 enabled. I was very interested to find out that the Apple iPhone 16 allegedly does Wi-Fi 7. We'll see, since my wife just got an iPhone 16, as well as units by Asus, Google, and Netgear Orbi, and Eero and Asus have home mesh devices that do Wi-Fi 7. And you got, of course, you got dual band Wi-Fi 7 routers as well. Now, the thing that makes Wi-Fi 7 really great here is the fact that they're using additional bandwidth in the 6 gigahertz region, right? It's 3 additional channels, and they're 320 megahertz wide to give that extra speed. Not only that, but if you look at the bottom of this chart, you'll see that Wi-Fi 7 uses a denser packing mechanism in their quadrature amplitude modulation. They do in 4K as opposed to 6, which does 1K, 5 that does 256. So they're packing stuff tighter, and they're also using more bandwidth to give you this speed. Now, and here's a list of what Wi-Fi 7 gives you in terms of the key highlights. Okay, another thing that we've talked about in the past is 5G coverage. And this is the map that I used last year to show you, according to Ookla speed test, where 5G was coverage. And you see here that there are many, many spots around the world. And I wondered what it would be like for this year. So let me just, let me do, hold on a second here. Let me go, if it's, oh, darn it, you know, okay, hold on a second. Let's go over here. All right. So this year what happened is they don't publish a map like that anymore. What they do is they now have a, they'll give you a file that is in a format called GeoJson, right? And this particular format, you know, I looked around for how do I see this, and there's something in the Microsoft Store called a GeoJson player. Now, I'm also finding out that this particular program is buggy in that it will show you things, and it just populated the information here. And if I come over to the United States, you'll see that if I let it go for a while, it will put little circles all over the place. What's nice about this program, though, is if you pick one of these and you click on it, see if it's going to do it. Of course, when I'm doing stuff live, there you go. So there's something. The operator name is Claro. The city name is Chimotengo, and it's available right now. And that looks like it's in, I'm guessing, Mexico somewhere. All right. So this is a program you can use to view all these things, and each of these dots is clickable. It will tell you which carriers are actually working there and what the status is. But anyway, the other thing I did was I took a snapshot of this, and here's what's happening near us here in New Jersey and where the 5G spots are. And if you're using another program, you could click on these individually and see which carrier has these sites for you. Okay. Any questions about this? Well,
So that's from Ookla 5G map on speed
Yeah.
test.
yes, yes.
looks like it's got Asbury Park, Rumson, Red Bank, and
Yeah,
some-
and
maybe
unfortunately,
Freehold.
yeah,
No,
well, let me go back.
Freehold is way over.
Yeah, let me go back to this guy and see if I can expand this. Since we love doing stuff live in this group, you know. All right, here we go. Let's see here. New York, New Jersey. Let's do this. Let's see if I can't get, there you go. Look at that. Look at that. Right? There you go.
Share that screen so we can see it.
Well, I'm trying to blow it up so you can see it. Okay, so there it is. Can you see it, Bruce? Yeah, sort of.
All I see is your smiling face at this point.
Really?
No, that's you, Bruce, because I'm seeing a blue background of the PowerPoint and this overlay of the map.
Okay, all right.
So we'll go to
Let's go to this one here.
gallery then. I don't know what I should do here. Tell you.
Okay, so here I clicked on one of the
It
dots.
just may
and it
be your
says-
bandwidth.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, Bruce.
Okay.
Anyway, this particular one says it's T-Mobile and it's located in Lincroft, New Jersey, which is right down the street from me. Okay. Now, if we go down here, this one is Verizon, and that's in Tinton Falls. And this one is AT&T, and that's over in Shrewsbury.
Well, what are these representative of? A tower?
Towers that have 5G capability is my understanding. Okay. So what's this one down here?
How far can these transmit?
5G is short distance.
Depends on the band they're using. Okay. Since 5G cellular uses multiple bands, and those bands are anywhere from, I believe they have some down in the 1.8 gigahertz range. They have another grouping up around 2.5 gigahertz. And, you know, if you're in a stadium or something like that, they're using frequencies up in the neighborhood of, I want to say 28 gigahertz, somewhere around there. So the lower the frequency, the longer the range. Okay? Makes sense? I forget who was it asked that question?
I did, Ralph.
Ralph? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all depends on what frequency they're using, because the lower frequencies will travel farther. Okay.
What about the reliability? Is there
Oh, come on, Ralph. Come on, man.
Well, you can always look at your phone and it'll tell you if you're on 5G
Oh yeah, it
or
will.
4G
It will.
or LGE.
Yeah, and I think there's a magic incantation that you can do. You know, a series of things, a number you dial, and it will actually tell you more detailed information about what cell site you're connected to, what channel you're on, and things of that nature. So, but yeah. So the bottom line is 5G is here, it's expanding, and stay tuned. But the mere fact that Ookla no longer gives you a map, but then gives you a JSON file to put into a program you can go look and see what's where, is fascinating. And I'm going to close this now because I ran this earlier today a couple of times, and both times it crashed. So I'm just going to get rid of this, right? Let's see here now. Where were we? Let's go back here. Okay, let's say a couple words about electric vehicles. You may remember last year I mentioned that Tesla, of course, has a large charging network, and the plug that they use actually got standardized by the Society of Automotive Engineers. They standardized that connector, and it turns out, as far as vehicles are concerned, all your major car makers, except for Stellantis and Mitsubishi, have agreed to have their 2025 models use this standardized connector, okay? And the other thing that's going on is that your charging networks, in addition to the Tesla network, ChargePoint has also announced it will add these plug types soon, and Electrify America, owned by Volkswagen, has also announced it too is going to adopt that Tesla connector. So this is what's going on in the world of connectors for EVs. And I wanted to focus just on this one little topic rather than the whole EV world, because that's a whole other presentation. Okay. And anyway, this slide represents the end of my talk, right? Where we say, nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of new order of things. Our buddy Machiavelli said this in 1513 in the book The Prince. Another way of saying this is those who have the most to lose by change are the most resistant to it. So keep that in mind. Another thing is nothing endures but change. And Heraclitus said this, and of course I had to throw my own spin on it and said, the only thing that really changes is the rate of change. End of transmission, folks. All right. Any questions? Observation.
Observation. I just put into the Google Play Store. For
Yeah.
those of you who are on Android, there's an app called Cell Info Lite
Oh, okay.
that gives you information about what cell tower you're connected. It actually ties into Google Maps, and you can see on a Google map the actual cell tower that your phone is connected to and where it's located in relation to where you are.
Cool.
And it tells you what your service is, your signal strength is, and has all kinds of statistical information about your service.
Great.
Question from Bill Silverman.
Yes, Bill.
You mentioned that you could use an AI browser. Can you give us an example and show how it's done?
AI browser. Did I use those words exactly? Let me think
Oh,
about that.
somebody mentioned something like that.
Oh,
Oh,
there is.
what it may have been is the following. When you do a Google search, let me go here and do this and do a search. And let's do generative AI. This is NERATIVE AI, right? You do a search for something. You see this up here where it said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not sharing. Oop. Let me go back here. Stand by. Let me share. Oh, share screen. Okay, share screen. Okay, so up here, I did a search for generative AI, and you see the first thing you see is an AI overview. So I think the statement during the talk was the fact that even when you do just a regular Google search, you're going to get an AI component in the answer. Okay.
So what browser are you using and what search engine?
Oh, I'm using Chrome, and I'm using Google. Okay.
So Chrome and Google, and it puts the AI result over on the right.
It's actually on the left, but yeah. See, it says AI overview here.
Right, so it's giving you a summary.
Yes, that's correct.
And you're on Google.
Yeah, I am. Yep.
I just tried that in mine. I don't have that AI summary.
Oh, really?
It might be one of my blocking tools. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could be. Yep. Could be. But yeah, I've seen this for a while now, where it gives you an overview of whatever it is you're looking for. Right? And here it says generative AI is experimental. Oops, down here.
I'm not signed in.
Now, DuckDuckGo puts,
Yeah, what's that do for you?
it puts a summary up at the top. It's called
Okay.
Duck Assist, and
Okay.
it's labeled as a beta. And,
All right.
and it says that it's auto-generated based on limited sources. may contain inaccuracies, but it gives you a link. So it puts it not on, let's see, it depends on where it's up at the top above the answers.
All right,
It's called Duck Assist.
all right. So once again, you're seeing a AI generated summary of what you asked for. And then your links.
Bill, do you know anything about something called Bixby Vision?
No, what's that?
I got a Samsung Galaxy A35 telephone
Okay.
recently. And when you start it up, you get this little blue burb
Yeah.
that you're supposed to type a question into, and I guess it's supposed to answer. I haven't tried it out, but it's called Bixby Vision, Bixby.
Oh, Bixby.
Bixby
Oh,
Vision.
that name sounds familiar. That was that their equivalent of Siri in the past? Perhaps? And that
There used to be a thing called Bixby, but I just looked up Bixby Vision, and it
Yeah.
says that whatever you're pointing, apparently whatever you're pointing at, if it's text, it can translate it. If it's an object or a place, it can tell you what it is.
Oh, okay. All right. That's cool.
Have you tried it that way, Bill Silverman?
No, I haven't tried it at all. I've just been paying no attention to it. As I
So
said,
if you take your phone and you point it at an object like Cleopatra's head, it should tell you what that is.
oh, that's kind of like Google Lens.
Yeah.
Google Lens
Yeah,
does.
sounds
Google
like
Lens
it.
does that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Google Lens is good for that.
You know,
See, there you
I
go.
wonder if
So
you
there's
would-
another thing that, I mean, the
You are.
trend is that they're accumulating more background data, just like in order to have created the Chat GPT, what they needed to have was the mass of data that was on the internet. And then they were able to analyze it automatically and say, these are the words that occur next to one another in all the text on the whole internet. And so when you put in this word, the probability is that the next word is going to be this one. And then they just keep stringing the words together like autocomplete. Well, when they have objects and they get enough people, and it costs billions of dollars for them to pay the people who did this stuff, the people identify things, but they're using you to identify it. We had a presentation a while back about from one of the guys who founded Duolingo, and he also founded ChatGPT. So when you identify, when you do a CAPTCHA, not ChatGPT, but CAPTCHA, and you say, oh, this image has a motorcycle, this one has a motorcycle, this one has a motor. Now they have used that information to be able to categorize pictures, and they're using you to do the analysis that goes into the database so that when somebody shows a picture of a motorcycle, they can just look it up in there in the database that you answered in the CAPTCHA to be able to tell you this is a motorcycle.
Yep. True.
Yeah, we all make an assumption that this is all deep learning and machine learning. 60 Minutes had a episode a while back that they actually hire humans in Kenya, in Africa, to determine what an image looks like or what truth is or what truth is not. There's a human element in the cycle. It's all not machine learned. So what you're saying, John, about using CAPTCHA is just another element. And we can't make an assumption that what we're actually getting as far as information is truth. The truth has gone downhill in more than one ways, and I think AI is going to contribute to that downhill. I'm a little leery about.
Yeah.
I love AI. I live daily with Copilot, but I'm really
Okay.
Leary of
Let
80.
me mention one thing that somehow I got lost in the presentation somewhere. I did run across a book called AI SnakeOil. It's basically what's true and what's not, and how to figure out if what you're looking at is really true. It's put out by some researchers down at Princeton.
Could you put that in the chat?
Yeah, I will, because it's actually part of the presentation. I must have blown by it. Here, let me put there. It's called AI SnakeOil.
Appropriately named.
It's a great name. And if you look it up on Amazon, or no, you can look it up somewhere because I looked at it, and you can read the first couple chapters of the book. It's fascinating reading. AI.
Tell us what GPT stands for.
Oh,
Generative.
I know.
Predictive
Transformer.
Yeah.
Generative pre-trained transformer. Good to know.
The pre-trained part is what we were just kind of talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me see if I can find that SnakeOil reference here.
There's a web site, AI SnakeOil.
Right.
With .com. So you just go right there and it shows the book.
Yep. I forget what it's from, that site where you can read.
I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, go ahead.
The thing is that that artificial intelligence is being used by many companies. I mean, there were reports in the news that the executive orders that Trump put out were generated by artificial intelligence.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Or a lot of them were.
Yeah.
You know, they said, give me an executive order that says this.
Okay.
And it generated the text of that. Right? No big deal. Like, how did they get all of this stuff done so quickly? Well, they may have been starting for a long time. But...
It all started in Europe. What Trump has done has started in Europe. It's not just, pulled out of the thin air. A lot of things are going on around the world. We're not the only ones.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
I find that fascinating, John. I didn't run across that particular statement anywhere, but I could believe it, People using AI.
But places that have been handling your customer calls and your customer complaints, all of that stuff was recorded. All of it was transcribed. Decades worth of customer calls about products and complaints, all transcribed, run through a artificial intelligence engine, and they said, give me the answers that got the people off the phone fastest.
Right. Makes sense.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
Dick Barrett had been working with us in the Excel workshop trying to figure out how to analyze the surveys at Seabrook about the food service.
Okay.
And back then, he didn't know how to do the analysis because people use different words to categorize what they felt about food.
Okay.
And it was too much to be able, he'd have to go through and do it all by hand. Now, with artificial intelligence, he literally can take that and run it through a program which has been around. In fact, this program named Orange has been around since 1996 or 98.
Wow.
And you can just run it through and it'll tell you and categorize the answers. You have to train it, but now you can use ChatGPT and say, summarize all of these answers. Just give it all that text and it will go through and lickety split. You will have an analysis of the answers just like the summary that you get at the top in Amazon. It takes all of the comments that people have made about the products that they bought, and it summarizes them. And if you've read the little comments at the top, it says, people are pleased with this and this and this, and they're unhappy with this and this, and they say this about this and this, and it's in a little box at the top, a summary. Well, how do you think that was done? It just showed up, but it's artificial intelligence just analyzing all of the information that you put in, that all of the people making comments about that, and all of the stars that they gave it. Artificial intelligence engine did that.
John, it's funny you should mention that. I was thinking of Dick Barrett's survey. What was it, about 3 years ago, maybe, before the AI hit the fan?
Yeah.
And we were trying to analyze it back then without, I didn't have AI on my radar screen at all. And I think we were doing some very rudimentary things. We were doing word count. We were trying to estimate sentiment. But basically, we were using word processors.
Right. No, I asked him about it, and he just the other day, and because I said, you could take all of that stuff and put it through AI, Chat GPT.
Right.
And he said, well, the company is no longer giving us the survey results. So we can't do that anymore. But
now he's not even getting data. He's getting, what is he getting? He's getting a PNG file. He's getting a picture of what he needs. And
he was getting the data before.
Before he was getting the data. Now
and he put it into a spreadsheet.
Right.
But then the analysis of all of the individuals' answers about different questions was too much to translate into something that could be summarized. But that's exactly what this meeting is being summarized.
Well, there were programs in the past. There was a program called something like Expert Thinker or something.
Well, there's a program called Orange.
Yeah,
and
okay. Orange.
IEEE
yeah.
gave a little course, and there's a YouTube video that covers pretty much the same thing as this course, showing the evolution from basically how to find the slope and intercept of a line up to machine learning, and how it was used for analyzing cellular data, cell data about diabetes. And that's been around for 30 years now, 20 years.
I took a course back in college. I don't know. I guess it was a graduate course in statistics, and it was evaluating expert opinions. That actually would have experts would weigh in on opinions to determine conditions of individuals, and they would weigh. There was all kinds of crazy analysis to weigh their. They were given, different experts were given different weights as far as their opinion went. And it was very, very rudimentary, very rudimentary. Right now, like you say, you probably just run it through AI, Copilot, and boom, you got a sentiment. That's essentially what you're trying to get out of the analysis. If it's not numbers, which with Dick Barrett's, it was text, long text. I don't think he had any numbers in his data, so he had to interpret the comments like they do now with customer service. When you write a review and you don't give it a number, although they ask for a number, they have to interpret that. Is that a positive sentiment? Is it a negative sentiment? And that's what all this natural language is trying to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, I think I'm wondering, Bill also talked about bandwidth, which he usually does. Wi-Fi 8 is actually coming out, and it is not going to have any new features. They're working on it. It's due out probably in 3 years. Wi-Fi 7 has not taken hold very well. They're putting out, Bill had in his chart, Wi-Fi 6E, because they're trying to put out Wi-Fi 6, and now they're trying to put out Wi-Fi 6 extended because they can't put out Wi-Fi 7 fast enough. And I doubt that any of you on here or anyone in the club would even notice, except you're going to have to buy, if you have to get a new router for some reason. If you have an old router, if you have a Wi-Fi 4 or 5 router, you are way behind.
Right. Yes.
Some of the stuff that they're doing mostly is beam forming, so that if you are in one corner of your house and it used to be that the radio would be broadcasting all around, and if there are other devices in other areas of the house, they would be interacting with the router, if it's Wi-Fi, and they would be dragging down, in a sense, the amount of bandwidth you get.
Yep.
Now, the routers are smart. They go, oh, the only guy who's really talking to me is that one over in that corner of the room. And they actually form the radio band through the antennas to focus on you because you're the one working and give you more throughput.
Yes, but they're packaging it with Wi-Fi extenders. Verizon has a package. I noticed, I don't know, I guess it's 7 Wi-Fi 7.
Okay.
It's a whole house, whole house.
Yep.
They give you they give you the router, but then they charge you for the extender. That's their.
I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about that a smart router, if you get a Netgear Nighthawk, that's a Wi-Fi 6 or 6E, it's going to have beam forming.
Yes.
It's got multiple antennas, and it will change the power going to each antenna so that the most of the power is going in a direction, and it can follow you around the house.
Yep.
Now you got all these little IoT things, Internet of Things, and other devices all over that would be using stuff, but all they're doing is saying, I'm here, I'm here. They're not actually transmitting much data. So the router pays attention to who's getting the data. And it says, this is the guy that's active. Put all the power over there.
Right. Yep.
Now, I don't think that has anything to do with what you were talking about, Fred, is not related to this.
It's not. I mean, why are they packaging the extender then? They're packaging that with the.
I doubt it. If you're just using a Verizon or Optimum or Comcast router that they give you, Wi-Fi router that they give you, it probably does not have this feature. It's uniform throughout the whole house.
It's the latest package from Verizon that I just looked at it today or yesterday.
Okay. Does it have beamforming antenna? Does it have multiple antennas on it? Do you know?
It's the latest. You know, it does up to I think it does even 2.5 gig. I don't know.
I mean, I'm when I look at my Verizon Fios router that I got a couple years ago, it's Wi-Fi 6.
No, it's a 7. It's a 7.
Inside, and I'm sure it does not do any beam forming that John was talking about.
Okay, so what we're looking at is beam forming versus having an older router with a Wi-Fi extender. Okay.
Right.
And what would be the designation of that? Would it be just say 7, or would it say 7 something?
Well,
there's no 7 something. There's only 7. There's a 6E because they weren't selling enough. They weren't getting out the devices that could use 7 fast enough. So there's a lot of stuff that's going slow. Probably the pandemic and supply chain stuff had an effect on that.
Yeah.
And so it's not going as fast as they would like, but you really want to go and take a look at the equipment that you have. If you're using Ethernet, it's not going anywhere. You got a gigabit or 2.5 gigabits, and that's the best you're going to do. You're best off using wired. But if you're going to use Wi-Fi, which is what your phone is going to use, you might want to make sure that you have a new enough phone and that you have a router that supports it.
Right. Yep.
These things, that's the trend. I mean, they're going to move the stuff right out from under you.
How much of the equipment is using mesh networking as opposed to just extenders?
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Now, you'd have to have a real big house or very thick brick walls to
Right.
need a mesh network. My
Yep.
son has a house that has that's separated into sections with stone brick walls, cement walls in between. And
Right.
so he has a mesh.
Yeah.
But for a standard house, a box, the most that you might need is a Wi-Fi extender, which
Yep.
you can get for 30 or 40 bucks.
Yeah, see down here, I don't know about up north, but in Florida, in this community I live in, all of the studs in the walls are metal. They're not wood anymore.
Oh, okay.
And you find that it even in a smaller home, the Wi-Fi signal for 5 gigahertz doesn't travel as far and as strong as you think it would.
Right. So therefore you need an extender or a mesh network. in that
Yes.
situation.
And
Okay.
so some people moving into some places that are not their traditional homes, that may be a assisted living community or some newer apartment, may be moving into a place that has steel studs.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's a situation that's real. My niece's husband, his grandmother, is in assisted living here in Sarasota,
Mhm.
and she pay as part of her living fee is Wi-Fi, and
Oh,
it's built into the building.
all right.
And so each unit that that a person occupies has Wi-Fi provided by the IT department that runs the facility.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, she was complaining to her grandchildren about buffering on her TV.
Yep.
And he went over to her home and connected to her Wi-Fi with his cell phone and ran speed tests. And he was getting about between 6 and 10 megabytes per second.
Ooh. Oh,
And she had no real recourse she could put in a request to have it fixed, but everybody had, a lot of people there, depending upon what unit you lived in and where it was in relation to the hardware, she has lousy service. So if you know someone who is going to be moving into assisted living, one of the things that questions you want to ask before you actually move in
yeah.
is let me go into the unit and run a speed test. And
Yep. Yep.
Another important tip, really.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
You used to just worry if it had cable or not.
I don't know whether in that particular unit, Drew, do you know whether they have cable at all or is it all Wi-Fi?
It was all Wi-Fi. They don't have
It's
an
all
option
Wi-Fi,
for
yeah.
hardware.
Yep.
No options for cables.
Right. Yeah. So there's another trend we're seeing. Let's do Wi-Fi.
So as you move into an assisted living facility, that's one of the considerations is what kind of internet are they providing for the residents?
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I ran a Wi-Fi extender in my father's apartment when he was independent living, assisted living rather, and it worked fine. In the house here, I've also used a power line adapter for Ethernet.
Okay. Yep. Well, as we say, as time goes on, you're going to see more and more Wi-Fi, I'm sure. And as Drew mentioned, if you have a facility with the metal studs, it's going to wreak havoc with the radio transmission.
Here's a comment on local, very high-end community here in Northern Virginia,
Okay.
Green Spring. Very, very nice, popular. They have a nice computer club there. I've given a lot of presentations. And maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it's an Ericsson community. 5 or 6 years ago, they decided to re-engineer how you get to the internet.
Okay.
And so I think instead of people having Ethernet jacks in their apartments, they put Wi-Fi, they put routers all over the building. And a lot of the people who live there are technically savvy. Some of them are former engineers, and they did a lot of studies, and they wrote a lot of letters, and they wrote a lot of papers
Yep.
explaining what the community was going to do would be inadequate.
Okay.
And the community went ahead and did it. And what a surprise, it was inadequate. And there was a lot of hubbub because people moved in with one set of assumptions,
Yep.
and they were not really consulted or reflected regarding these changes. And I think they've straightened it out. I think they moved routers and put in more routers and did whatever they were going to do. But there was some equipment that people had that was not Wi-Fi capable, that needed to be connected with Ethernet.
Sure.
And you were pretty much out of luck unless you did some kind of translation from a Wi-Fi signal to an Ethernet connection that you could put in. So all of the advice that I've heard on run the speed test and do all kinds of things before you move in is absolutely valid, absolutely essential. My point is that you can't necessarily count on what you encounter when you move in for remaining stable. Now, I think what I heard was that Green Spring was done as the pilot site for Ericsson, which has lots of communities all over the country. And
Yeah.
so it may turn out that rollouts in other communities went a little bit better, but still it was a very unpleasant experience. People pay a lot of money to move in. They pay a lot of money to live there. They expect to be taken better care of. And it was just very unpleasant what they went through for some extended period before it all settled down.
And what time frame was this again?
I can't tell you. You know, time blends together. We went through COVID, and it was like being in the
Okay.
suspended
Yeah,
animation. We
sure.
were all Rip Van Winkle.
Yeah. Okay.
It was certainly before COVID, but
Okay.
I mean, I would say it is probably in the last 10 years.
All
But
right.
you know that doesn't narrow it down very much.
No, but it gives you a sense because we all know that things change every year or two. So that could be 3 or 4 or 5 technology cycles ago.
Sure. Well, and that raises the whole question of what you were discussing with different generations of Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Is a community like Green Spring that certainly has hundreds of routers probably embedded in the ceiling. With a big project that was very disruptive and had to move ceiling tiles and probably break through walls and do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
When Wi-Fi goes N to N+1, how quickly is a community going to re-engineer their whole infrastructure?
Not very.
Now, this is a lot of what Wi-Fi 7 and 8 are targeted at. The ability to have Wi-Fi in places that have a huge number of people there at once, whether it's 5G networks. I mean, they don't have the 6G, they're working on 6G, but figure a football stadium, right? 80,000 people at Clemson. How do you handle the Wi-Fi there? Because the people somehow want it. Or whether it's their cellular data or Wi-Fi, some people need to use Wi-Fi there, and they need to find a way to get the signal to the people who need it and handle at scale, as they say.
Yes.
With thousands of people in the place at once.
Yep.
I've got a comment about a friend found that their network the responses got killed when they put in video security cameras on the network.
Mm-hmm.
The only way they could get their response back was by putting the security cameras on a separate sub-network.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
We know that.
The more security cameras there are in your neighborhood or on your house, I mean, people putting up Ring cameras. I got my bird buddy out in the backyard. There are all these additional devices that are on the network and taking up bandwidth.
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
then eventually you notice your computer is slowing down, or your smart TV, which is not hardwired because you didn't decide to do that, it was inconvenient. And now you're using wireless speakers,
Mhm.
wireless 7.1 speakers.
Yep.
You're
By the
putting
way-
a lot more load on your router, and you may need not just a newer version, but a more powerful router.
Yeah, I
But there is a
noticed that.
computer in there that needs to be powerful enough to process the routing of all of those packets.
Yep.
Hello, do you hear me?
Gilbert, go.
Okay, at the last Linux meeting, we went through my router, my home Verizon router, to find that with IPv6 actually does work. But
Yep.
I also noticed in a prior exploration of my router that it had an additional channel in it for IO Internet of Things, so you can put your Internet of Things on a separate subnet for various purposes.
Right. Right.
We're going to be seeing more of that too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because that's, if I ever had IoT in my network, I would definitely have it off the house network.
Yep. I hear what you're saying.
I have a question
With
for
the
John.
Internet of Things, you're probably better to have a separate Bluetooth low energy network, especially with the end devices. If they're battery powered, then the Bluetooth low energy is much better way to go rather than Wi-Fi, because the batteries will last a lot longer.
Especially, but now you'll have to check. Like my new 2-year-old computer supposedly is only capable of Bluetooth 5.2, and the latest is 5.4, and 5.3 and 5.4 are the ones that give you extended range. They go up to 300 yards instead of 30 yards.
Okay.
So it's not just Wi-Fi, but Bluetooth range also. Bill Silverman tried to put his hand up.
Go, Bill.
He put it right through the screen.
Absolutely. What do you got, Bill?
Okay, John, you mentioned about your bird buddy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, my bird buddy is a Wi-Fi equipped bird feeder that has a camera in it. And it's Wi-Fi equipped, and it's a feeder, so I have to fill it with feed, and the birds come and sit on the front in front of the camera, and it records them. It takes a video, a snapshot, and it has a microphone in it. I can watch a
Sure, it's
bird
not a squirrel
eating.
monitor.
I can watch a bird eating live,
Is this
and
legal?
whenever a new bird comes, it identifies the bird. It
Oh.
Is
uses
this all legal? Is it legal? What about birds' rights?
what about a what?
How many squirrels do you see?
Privacy on the birds.
I had
Bird.
to put this thing on a pole with a baffle, a cone, to keep the squirrels from climbing up there, and move the pole away from trees and trim the trees around them. I caught a squirrel jumping from a forsythia bush branch up above the cone and onto that, and shaking the seed out of it, so that squirrel and the squirrels are very, very smart.
John Stample can be funny.
John, John, do you have any of this video feed that you could share with us for a moment?
Well, just go to YouTube and ask for squirrel feed proofing anti-squirrel squirrel proofing bird feeders or something like that.
Oh, I've got another bird feeder that's squirrel proof. I just bought a replacement because some squirrel chewed up the edge, and this one lasted 6 or 7 years. But there's a company in Canada that makes squirrel proof bird feeders, and this one has a cage that is handled by weight. If a squirrel gets on it or a heavy bird, it closes down and covers up the ports. So we just put another one of those out. Okay, and that one doesn't need a baffle or.
What's its URL?
I drone. The squirrels figure out how to counterbalance the weight.
Oh, they're very smart. Yes, we see them. With the old one, he used to hang upside down and scoop the stuff out onto the ground. Let's see if I can get.
But you're right.
All
All I have to get on it and swing it back and forth, and then the bird seat falls to the ground.
Wow.
Let's see, what can I do with? Is that a good one?
You have a bird bath out for them?
Yes, and my wife has a heater in it. And
Yep.
everybody, all the animals, our yard, we don't get deer, and the rabbits don't go up on the watering trough, but these birds and the squirrels definitely do. And they need the water right now. And when there was a drought, they needed the water. But we got a heater to put in there because otherwise the water would just freeze.
You change the water every day?
Well, just have to fill it at least. Surprising how much gets drunk or evaporates.
Yeah, but it also gets contaminated.
That's not on Wi-Fi.
But
Only
also
the
gets,
Bird Buddy is on Wi-Fi. And if you happen to like birds, I mean, this thing is not cheap. I got it as a gift. It's on the order of $200 or something. But the Bird Buddy is really good. There's more than one brand. The one I have is Bird Buddy. And it doesn't hold enough food. If you have any number of birds around, I'd have to fill it up every day with just the birds eating the food. But it's on Wi-Fi, and you can turn it on and watch the bird live sitting there eating. And it identifies the birds and tells you what kind of bird. And if you have a new species, it says new species seen. And it sometimes doesn't know which one it is. But
there's an app by Cornell for bird watchers. Are you familiar with it?
no.
I'll send you a link. A free app by Cornell. I'll let
Oh,
you know.
I got plenty of bird books and bird identifiers, but this thing identifies them for you and shows you.
Yeah, this
tells
app
you
will
when
listen
they
to
were
the
out
bird.
there.
This app will listen to the bird and identify it by its sound, by its song.
Well, this one probably does the same thing because it has a microphone and it's on the web and it's on the internet, and it can tell. I mean, clearly it's sending something back and using artificial intelligence to identify that bird, that kind of bird.
By the way, if anyone's interested, that app is called Merlin, MERLIN, Merlin Bird ID. Worth checking out.
Oh,
You sure it's not just AI snake oil?
Hey guys, I'm going to sign off. I got to go check and see how my wife's doing. So,
Okay, good luck.
yep, been a pleasure as always. And